How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. Today we're discussing the kind of departure of Chad Green, why the Yankees ended up going with Tommy Kahnle instead of Green, both, obviously coming off injuries. Kahnle had a couple of innings of action last year, probably much further along in his rehabilitation than Chad Green, who obviously had, Tommy John surgery, and, now he signed a 2-year, $8.5 million deal with our AL East rival, the Toronto Blue Jays. So definitely an interesting kind of situation unfolding there. We also want to discuss Estevan Florial and his, competition, like what he can offer this team in left field and if he can win that left field job and what happens to him because he doesn't have any minor league options left. Will the Yankees try to trade him? Will they just DFA him? Like there has to be a decision with Estevan Florial rather soon based on the fact that you just they don't have any other option. And it's either now or never for him. So, Ryan, let's start with Chad Green here. Before we do, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Ultimately, Chad Green is someone that I think is tougher to see go, more so from the perspective of, he was a pretty long time Yankee. He was part of that 2017 team that you would really kind of look at as someone who was a pillar, kind of one of that part of that young group that came up that year and really excelled. The Yankees, I think that Tommy John surgery really was the reason the Yankees weren't going to bring him back. Not because, he's going to regress or he's not going to be good anymore, but more so because Tommy Kahnle, we're going to talk about him in a bit, but Tommy Kahnle was available this year, and Chad Green is not. Would the Yankees have liked to keep Chad Green around? Yes, they're hugging the luxury tax, that Steve Cohen threshold, super tight. Even $4 million this year is going to push him over that threshold, and that's something the Yankees are going to be doing right now. I imagined that they had their price point and they weren't going to go over it. The Blue Jays were willing to add those extra couple $1 million and give him more insurance in that creative option situation where they have, where based on the decision they make this year. So if the Blue Jays pick up his club option, they have him through 2026. If they decline it, Chad Green gets to pick up his player option. If he declines it, it activates like a different clause for the Blue Jays. It's a really weird contract, but end of the day, it comes down to, did the Yankees want to give $4 to $6 million to a guy who could pitch this year or a guy who could pitch next year? And I think considering where the Yankees are in their contention window, not saying the Blue Jays aren't also contenders, the Yankees needed to prioritize getting someone who could help their bullpen right now, rather than getting someone who could help their bullpen next year. And Chad Green kind of became more of a luxury. If they could afford it, they could do it, but they couldn't. So they still have a hole in left field in my eyes. So I imagine all the money that they have, that they could even free up in an IKF deal or anything like that, is going to get put towards left field. It should get put towards left field or just be stashed away to be used in the deadline so that when they do acquire a player, they don't have to take on, they don't have to trade away so many prospects because they have to ask the team to take on money or anything like that.
Right, so even it's kind of interesting because they actually included like $29 million in team options, I think, for the 2025-26 season with Chad Green's deal. So it's really like a 4-year deal it's a 2-year deal guarantee with $8.5 million, but then ton of add-ons if he ends up dominating, kicking some serious ass. But so, going with Kahnle over Green was the right decision because, Green obviously got injured last season, so he's probably going to miss a little bit of time opening 2023, but Kahnle's 100% healthy. He's ready to go. Obviously, the home run issues kind of prevalent for both pitchers in a way, but Kahnle's a little bit more obvious when you look at the numbers. Now, I guess right now, when you're looking at both players, Ryan, if you had to choose between the two, are you going with Kahnle? I imagine just because of the health factor right now.
Yeah, I would be going with Tommy Kahnle, and quite frankly, I think even if you're projecting for 2024, it's kind of tough to really get anything really data-wise for Chad Green in terms of, what is he going to look like next year? What is Chad Green going to look like when he comes back? What does his velocity look like? What does the command look like? Velocity typically stabilizes pretty early on post-surgery, but the one thing that takes some time is command. So, even if you're looking at a return for Chad Green for 2023, his command may be completely off for a little bit, and it takes some time for that to come back. And if he comes back, it'll probably be really late in the year, trying to make a push to making the October roster. And I'm not saying I'm doubting the fact that Chad Green can go out there and perform in 2023, but I think it's very unlikely he does that. And then again, as you mentioned, 2024, I think that's just a complete question mark, right? I'm not going to sit here and say Kahnle's definitively better a year from now. I'm not going to say Chad Green's definitively better a year from now, but we don't know what Chad Green's going to be in 2024. So I'll take the more certainty in Kahnle, and I'll take the immediate impact in Kahnle before I take someone who's going to need to rehab the first year of his deal.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. And I'll tell you what, this bullpen right now, it lacks diversity in the left-handed pitching department. But you got guys like Carlos Rodon, you got in the starting rotation rather, and of course you got Nestor Cortez, who you're hoping that those lefty arms, those starting pitchers, can take you 6+ innings whenever they're available, whenever their slot is up. But not having that diversity in the bullpen is going to be interesting. I wonder how the Yankees really deal with that. I wonder if they bring in a lefty rather soon. Like I said, Wandy's the only guy that lost Britton, lost Chapman. So wonder if they add another guy here. But Kahnle is obviously the right choice. They paid him slightly more, but nothing it's just marginal at best. 2 years, same as Chad Green, a little bit further in his rehabilitation. Looked pretty solid during small sample size with the Dodgers last season. But I want to switch over to kind of another segment, another topic entirely with Estevan Florial. Now, I spoke about this with Sam a little bit, asked his take on it. I want to get yours as well. Brian Cashman has said, specifically that he's, it's Aaron Hicks, it's Oswaldo Cabrera, and it's Estevan Florial. Those are going to be the guys that are competing in left field. Of course, you have Rafael Ortega, probably get some opportunities. Willie Calhoun, who, more is just a filler than an actual realistic competitor, in my opinion. But I digress. Let's look at Estevan Florial. Really good numbers in AAA last year. Now, the 30.7% strikeout rate stands out. Chase and whiff rate's up the second he gets to the MLB level. He's never had more than 17 games in a season at the major league level, and usually they're all broken up into like 3 or 4 game stints, and he gets sent down, he gets called back up, he was back and forth all the time between Scranton and the Yankees and the Bronx. But when you're looking at him, do you feel as though he needs more time, more consistency, or do you think that we've seen enough? Estevan Florial's kind of time is coming to an end with the Yankees here. Or do you think he has one last crack at the starting job? Because in my opinion, I would prefer Oswaldo Cabrera to be in that utility role, and using Hicks as your everyday guy, who's to say that Florial doesn't come on and doesn't prove that he's capable of hitting consistently and performing well defensively? How do you kind of view him as a piece to the puzzle right now, and if you think he can actually make an impact here?
Yeah, so I think I'm definitively at this point out on Estevan Florial as a major league starter. Quite frankly, I think last year was kind of that year for him to prove he could do it. The strikeout rate in AAA was really concerning, 30.4% strikeout rate. That doesn't really tend to get better at the major leagues. I think the power is still plus. I think he still has remarkable power. I think he can hit for a high average at AAA, but you have to be able to put the ball in play at the major league level in order for you to really find anything sustainable, right? Small sample size, but in 63 play appearances, it's not like he's found much success at the major league level. He had that small spurt in 2021 when he was pretty successful, but outside of that, it really hasn't been much to find interesting or positive. There weren't many positive signs there. If you look at even his projections, there's not a single good offensive projection for Estevan Florial. Steamer is his best one at 93, but most of them, the bad X is as low as 73. Zips is at an 81. For the most part, he's a consensus not good hitter. And Aaron Hicks was not a good hitter last year either, but you take a 90 WRC plus over like an 80, right? That's math right there, 10% better. And at the end of the day, I'll take the proven guy. I'll take a proven guy in Hicks. If I have to platoon him, I'll platoon him. If I have to, Hicks looks better from the right-handed side, I'll platoon him with Ortega if I have to, or Cabrera, whatever it may be. I think there are just too many guys ahead of Florial right now who are just a lot safer, a lot better bets. And Florial still hasn't proven he can handle major league pitching, not even just like hit, right, but handle it, right. If he was able to give you a 95 WRC plus, we're having a conversation now about platooning against right-handed pitching. That's a conversation to be had now. But it's there, that hasn't really that hasn't really come to form yet. And I get a lot of people are going to say, the Yankees haven't given Florial a chance. But quite frankly, I don't think the Yankees were going to get much better if they took Aaron Hicks out the lineup and put Florial in last year. They tried it. He did not play very well. Cabrera eventually took over that role when the infielders came back. And ultimately, one big variable here with Florial that we don't really talk about is how long does he have on this roster still? How many, he doesn't have minor league options. How long is he going to really even be on this team? I wouldn't be stunned if we go into spring training or we exit spring training and Estevan Florial is no longer on the team. It's kind of sad because, in a retrospect, he's still a talented player. I think he can still find it, but he's not going to find it in New York. He's not because he can't handle New York or anything like that. It's just the playing time, right? Alex, I think you can agree with me here. Are you going to throw Esteban Florial in left field on opening day and say, go get him? You know what I mean? Like, that's not a competitive move. Are you going to bring up Florial as even your first outfielder? I know Nick loves Elijah Dunham. Is Elijah Dunham not going to get a call over him potentially? Everson Pereira is on the 40-man already. If he plays well in AAA, which he could get to AAA at the start of the year next year with a good spring training, they'd both be at similar starting points. Is Everson Pereira not going to get the call before Florial if we think, hey, we want to give a guy a shot to, be a full-time starter? Let's give it to a 22-year-old outfield with better prospect status instead of the 25-year-old who's kind of lost his. So age, injuries, performance, it kind of all accumulated over the last few years into Florial just not making it. And it's unfortunate because I think he's still really talented.
Yeah, so here's my take on that. And like you're saying, the Yankees could go in the direction of like, let's just call up Everson Pereira, whatever, Elijah Dunham. You could even make a strong argument Jason Dominguez could be a better option. But, I'll tell you this right now. This is Esteban Florial's final chance with the Yankees. A former number one prospect, a couple injuries that really bogged him down during his development. He was really good in AAA last year. You're not going to call up Everson Pereira. He's not the type of prospect that you elevate beyond, like right past AAA to the majors. He's not that good. I think he still needs time there to really adjust and really, gradually move up the chains. But personally, because we don't have anybody else in left field, because, look, if you thought Aaron Hicks there, is he going to be a little bit better offensively? Probably. Florial's probably a little bit better of a defensive player. But who knows? Maybe Esteban Florial ends up hitting well and ends up kind of finding his groove. It's hard to tell. But I think the Yankees do this. They're like, all right, look, Hicks is not a long-term solution. He's more of a stopgap. Despite whatever Brian Cashman says on a daily basis, how much he loves Aaron Hicks, it's either he's trying to offload him at the same time, so we know it's two-faced. This is kind of how I feel about it. If you're going to go and throw Aaron Hicks out there or throw Oswaldo Cabrera out there, look, Oswaldo Cabrera, great defensive player. He was not very good offensively last year. If you just look at the numbers, he was not great. We're expecting him to take a step forward, and he needs that experience and time to get it. But I like him more in a super utility role than a starting left fielder. I would love if somebody stepped up and filled that starting left field position, and then you had Oswaldo Cabrera, able to help supplement DJ LeMahieu's health and help supplement anybody's health, whether it's Bader. He can really fill in wherever you need him to. Rizzo at first, any level of utility, sequence he can fill and keep everybody healthy, and I think that would be his preferred usage. But why not just give Florial one last chance and be like, hey, this is your chance, man. If you screw up, you're gone. We don't have any more minor league options to give you. It's now or never. Nobody wants to trade for you. We've tried to trade you. I think they were trying to trade with him to the Royals last year, maybe in the deal for Benintendi. Just they didn't want him. It's this is it for Florial. So with his back against the wall, with everything to gain and nothing to lose, why not give him one last opportunity to win this job? Because otherwise, the alternative is Aaron Hicks. And are we really going to sit here and act like Aaron Hicks is significantly better right now? Because, the last couple seasons would say he's not that much better. He's a liability offensively, just as Florial has been. But over a much larger sample size, he's proven to suck. Whereas Florial has played a maximum of 17 games, broken up into smaller stints. The lack of consistency is awful. It's really not done him any favors. Do I think that Florial's a long-term solution? No. But at the very least, with his back against the wall and nothing to lose, let's go throw him out there and see what he can do over a couple of games strung together early in the year when the Yankees are fully healthy and they can supplement. The Yankees are good enough to provide enough offense and enough pitching quality to win games with Florial not hitting. You know what I mean? And if he's not hitting and he's not doing anything for you at all, then you know your future and you just got to DFA him or let him go, whatever it might be. But I think there is something to say about a competitor. And Florial, this is his chance. It's his last chance. Why not give it to him and see if he rises to the occasion?
Yeah, so the way I view things with Aaron Hicks and Esteban Florial is, Esteban Florial, I don't know what the median outcome here is, right? I say this a lot with young players. There's a wide distribution of results here. There is complete uncertainty with rookies. And I realize this team inherently has a pretty decently wide, things could go pretty south. I 100% understand when, this team is having Peraza and Cabrera and eventually Volpe, settle into larger roles in this team. But the issue with Florial is just more so, it's the hit tool, right? I think Peraza has shown he can make consistent consistent contact at any level he plays. Cabrera, even though he had a higher strikeout rate than you'd like, it settled down. The whiffs calmed down a little bit towards the end of that tenure. He still finished with the WRC plus of like a 111. So, you feel like he can make contact at the major league level. Volpe has never really had a strikeout issue. I know a lot of people are going to point to the AAA stint. He played like 20 games, right? The strikeout rate is going to be high in 20 games, your first 20 games there. I'm not concerned. He does not have a strikeout issue. But when it comes to a guy like Everson Pereira versus Aaron Hicks, I know Aaron Hicks can make contact with major league pitching. That right there is going to give him the job for me, right? Like, I know he can make contact with major league pitching. I don't want to, in a sense, not that I don't want to find out, but yeah, kind of. I don't want to find out what Estevan Florial looks like at the major league level, because so far it's been ugly, and it projects to get uglier. It doesn't project to get much better. It doesn't project to get much prettier. I know, and I feel bad harping on this because, I really do like Estevan Florial. I don't think it's anything wrong with him as a player, as a person, or anything like that. It's just a matter of contact, right? Even if you have Aaron Hicks is a 90 WRC plus versus Florial like an 85, right? You could say, well, Florial's more exciting, younger, more dynamic, but Hicks, if he's going to, at least he can put the ball, like, at least he's not going to run situations where he's going to be striking out like 50% of the time. Florial's going to have stretches like that where he's barely walking, and he's striking out like in 40% of plate appearances. People are going to have to be either okay with that, and okay with it to the point in which they're passing up on a higher floor and, quite frankly, a similar ceiling. Like, do we think Florial is going to ever be good enough with his hit tool to go out there and hit, for a high WRC plus, I have a high OPS. He may not ever put up the OBP and batting average to do it at the major league level. And that's kind of the same thing with Aaron Hicks in terms of batting average. He really struggles with that. Florial has a higher power ceiling. Florial, I definitely think, has better power than Hicks. But end of the day, I think I'm more enticed by a situation where you have Aaron Hicks in left field. If you want to add another outfielder via kind of your minor league free agents, you bring in Ortega. I think Ortega's kind of the best guy right now. And you have Ortega hit against righties and Hicks hit against lefties, right? Hicks is a better hitter against lefties than he is against righties. He hits better from the right-handed side. Quite frankly, you'd be in a pretty good situation. I think that's a better outcome than just throwing out Florial. Is it exciting? No. Is it flashy? No. Do either of those guys have star potential? Absolutely not. But quite frankly, the Yankees just need okay from left field. I'm at the point with the Yankees where if they're okay in left field, if they're serviceable in left field, they'll be fine. So everything else, I think all the other positions are pretty good. Left field, they just need to be okay, serviceable, survive. You know what I mean? That's all they need to do until the deadline.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And that's the key thing you said at the end there, until the deadline. They just need to survive until the deadline, because at that point, Volpe may be up, Volpe may be hitting well, and, that makes Gleyber Torres expendable because you got Peraza, Volpe. Maybe Peraza ends up expendable because you want to keep Torres. Like, there's so many things they can do. The Yankees have value. They have prospects. They have guys who have value they can move for left field support. So we'll see what happens. This is really an interesting scenario, and we'll see if the Yankees make any moves now or they wait, and who really steps up to the plate here, pun intended, because ultimately this is Florial's last chance. Hicks, we know they're trying to offload Hicks, and if he starts playing well and returns to his normal self that we saw back in 2018, 2019, maybe we just keep him around until the end of the season and see what happens here. But guys, I'd love to hear perspectives on Estevan Florial. If you think he can rise to the occasion with his back up against the wall and showcase his best baseball at the major league level if he gets the opportunity. Always happy to hear perspectives down in the YouTube comments. As always, have a fantastic rest of your day. Like and subscribe as always. We'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.